Hi, good evening. So agenda of today's recording is I will be explaining how different classes in Java interact with each other, right? But before I go further, I would like to give a quick recap of whatever we have studied till now. So we have studied that what exactly is a class. So a class is a template which has specification for the object, right? In simple words, I have given various examples. For example, animal is a class. So animal will have attributes, number of ears, number of legs, tail, whether it's a domestic animal or a wild animal. And then if I say what is an example of an animal could be lion is an example of animal, cow is an example of animal, dog is an example of animal. So all these animals, which are examples of animals, we'll call them as object, right? So in simple words, class is something which is like a common noun, and you can say object is something which is like a proper noun. Or we can say anything which is an example of something that is called a class. We have also seen how do we write a class in Java. We have seen the OOPS principle, and then we saw that how do we basically a class will have attributes, and how do we initialize attributes. To initialize attributes, we have the concept of constructor. So what exactly is a constructor? Constructor is used to initialize the attributes of a class with the given values. We have also seen what is getters and setters. So getters and setters are just like any other normal methods, which is used to basically read the value of the attributes, or if you want to change the value of the attributes. We have also seen when do we use constructors, when do we use getters and setters. And I also explained basically the flow of the program. What is the concept of this keyword? How do we use this keyword? And so far, whatever we have been writing only a single class. For example, student class, employee class, customer class, teacher class. But now for the first time, I will be explaining how do multiple classes, more than one class, they exist in, I would say, in Java world, and how do they interact with each other. So this is what the agenda of this class. So let's discuss and try to understand how multiple classes are created and how do we interact with those classes. Thank you. So I'll quickly demonstrate basically what does it mean that when we have multiple classes, right? So first, let's understand basically how multiple classes exist. For example, assume that I have a class called, assume that let's say there is a pizza shop, right? And there is a customer, right? So how do these classes are related? So in Java, basically the relationship is, we have two types of relationship. Is a relationship and has a relationship. We are not talking about that relationship. So in this case, maybe you can say pizza shop and a customer. So there is no such a technical relationship. There is no parent-child relationship. We have seen that we have the concept of parent-child relationship, where we say that the concept of inheritance is applicable, where we'll say that the child class will inherit the behavior of the parent class. So is it relevant to say that customer is a child class of pizza shop? The answer is no, because we cannot say that customer is going to inherit the behavior of pizza shop, nor vice versa. We cannot say that pizza shop is a customer. So there is no such relationship. So, but then we say that technically we can say that in Java, technically there is only two types of relationship: is a relationship and has a relationship. That will be explained in future videos, right? But as of now, what we can see that there is a concept of, you can say, service provider and service consumer. I mean, there is no such word as such, I would say, but I'm just trying to tell you in a, I would say, logical business world, we can say that one of the classes providing the services and another class is consuming the services. So pizza shop and customer. So who is the service provider? You can logically guess. So pizza shop has certain functionality. It is providing the services. What kind of services it can provide? The answer is you can say that you can, as a customer, you can place an order to prepare pizza for me, or maybe prepare a burger for me, or maybe you can order for, maybe can you please deliver the pizza at home? So pizza shop is there, which is selling its items. It is just providing the services. So customer, in this case, customer is actually the consumer who is making the order, right? So one of them is a service provider, other is a service consumer. Similarly, we can say that, I mean, we can take various examples. Let us say one is maybe, let's take an example of, not cake shop. Let's take another example, maybe driver, right? Driver and a car, right? So is there any relationship between driver and car? So answer is maybe driver, let's say, would like to know what is the mileage of the car, or what is the model of the car, or what is the price of the car. But then are these classes related to each other? The answer is no. There is no relationship between driver and car. Both are two separate independent classes. But in that case, there are certain behavior which is present inside the driver class, and certain methods which are present inside the car class. So at times there might be requirement that maybe driver would like to know what is the mileage of the class car, or driver would like to know what is the price of the car. That means you can assume that driver is here acting as a I would say consumer, because it wants to know certain functionality or certain services provided by the car. So there is don't quote me anywhere. It's not basically, there is no such concept of service provider or service consumer. It is purely from business point of view. You have to see who wants to know the functionality of whom. In this case, a driver wants to know the functionality of car. So we can say that driver is the consumer which is trying to consume the functionality, of which wants to know the functionality of another class. So in a real world, let us say if we have two classes, so let's say class A and class B. So if I say that class A wants to, I would say, call some method of class B. So in that case, class A is actually acting as a consumer and class B is acting as the service provider. It is providing the functionality. So in this case, if class A has to call a functionality of class B, so class A is supposed to create object of class B and then call its method. So how do we call a method of a class? So to call a method of a class, we have to first create object of that class. So in this case, if class A wants to call method of class B, then class A has to create object of class B. And then using that object, it can call method of class B. Vice versa is also true. Assume that there might be requirement that class B wants to call method of class A. In that case, class B is acting as the consumer and class A is acting as the service provider. So if class B wants to call some method of class A, then class B needs to create object of class A, right? So let's take a real world example so that it's very, very clear to all of you. So I have already written the code just to save some time. So you can see that, okay, let me just quickly show. At the top, I have written basically two classes, right? So let us see these classes. So first of all, before I go further, you can see here, this class is, I would say, default access specifier. I'm not using public. So in one Java file, you can have as many classes as possible. So here the name of the class is name of the file is test.java, but I have written two classes in this. One is class Pizza Hut. You can pay close attention to the starting curly brace and ending curly brace, right? So, and the next class is class customer. You can see here, this is class customer. It starts here, it ends here. That means one file has two classes. Can I have only, is there any limitation on number of classes in a file? The answer is no. You can write as many number of classes as you want in a file. But only thing, condition is all these classes must be, and none of the classes should be public, right? So you can make only one class as public. So I will be explaining what does it mean. But before I go further, I'll just explain this. So you can please pay attention. I'm saying that here the class, the file name is test, but the class name and file name, they need not be same. They can be different. I will be explaining this concept many times in future videos, but I'm just want to highlight this at this point of time. So let us start here. This I said this one class could be public. That point we'll deferring it for the future videos, or maybe I'll explain it at the end of the recording. So this class Pizza Hut is basically, you can say class is having certain attributes, shop name, shop address, and I have written certain methods, get shop name, get shop address, and I have some, let's say prepare pizza. In a pizza shop nowadays, you get pizza, you get sometimes burger, and sometimes Pizza Hut, they also do home delivery. So I have a method which is written public void deliver pizza at home. So in this case, you can say Pizza Hut is a class which is providing certain services. What are those services? It can prepare pizza, it can prepare burger, it can do home delivery. Now I have another class called customer, right? So customer will have attributes. What are attributes? It will have name, address, and I have written two simply getters, which is get name and get address. Now in this case, you can see that basically if I try to execute this program, what will be the output, right? So let us understand this. If I'm asking you, if I execute this program, what will be the output? So we have seen that to start the program, we must need a starting point. But in this case, there is no such, I would say, starting point. I don't see any, I would say, starting point, that green arrow that comes from where we can execute the program. So there is no starting point. So I have already explained in the past, starting point means we must have the main method. Now, how many main methods we can have? So answer is every class can have main method depending on which is the triggering point, which is the starting point. So let us take this example. So in this case, this is a Pizza Hut class and this is a customer class. So in this case, let us say customer wants to order for a pizza. That means customer is acting as a consumer. It wants to invoke or it wants to call the functionality of Pizza Hut class. So that means customer is the, I would say, is the one who is acting as a consumer. So consumer is going to create object of the class which is providing the service. In this case, so a triggering point, a starting point should reside in customer because customer wants to initiate. That means in this case, we have to write a main method inside the customer class. So I'm just going to add this here and I'll use here the shortcut PSVM, and this is not a Java word. This is IntelliJ specific. So don't go by PSVM in the interview, right? The PSVM is just an IntelliJ shortcut. Now I have written this program. So this is the starting point. So now you can see here, if I execute this program, right? So it will start looking for the main method inside the, I would say, the customer class. But you can see that my output is empty. Sometimes students ask that I have written the main method, but nothing is happening. So answer to that is whatever you write inside the main method, that will be executed. So did we write anything inside the main method? The answer is no, it is empty. So therefore, you see no output. So now in this case, let us try to see the use case is I, as a customer, want to order some pizza. So that means I am the consumer. So in this case, the starting point has to be in the customer class, right? So, so how do we start? I want to order for a pizza. So I need to basically create object of the pizza, Pizza Hut, right? So a Pizza Hut or pizza shop. Let me see what's the name of the class. It's the Pizza Hut. So in this class, right, in this customer class, again, remember in the customer class, I need to create object of Pizza Hut. I'll say Pizza Hut shop. I'll call it, let's say pizza is equal to new Pizza Hut, right? By the way, this is just the reference variable, right? Basically, this line means it creates an object, and this pz is the reference variable. It points to the object that gets created on the heap, right? So if I say Pizza Hut, pizza is equal to new Pizza Hut. Sometimes students get confused that do I have to, what should be the reference variable name? Is it pizza or it could be anything? The answer is it could be anything, whatever you want. You can put tomato, potato, ABC, foo, bar, whatever you want. There is no such restriction. Now I have created object of Pizza Hut class. So what do I do with that? So my objective was, as a customer, I wanted to order for a pizza. So I have managed to create object of the service provider class. What is the service provider? Which is providing the service. So Pizza Hut is actually the class whose functionality I want to invoke or I want to consume, right? So I'll say pz dot, and then I want to, you can see here, it is showing me all the methods. So deliver pizza at home. So I'm going to click on deliver pizza at home. So what does it mean? Now this means that have I managed to have a starting point? The answer is yes. So why do I know this? Because I can see this green icon. So does this green icon appear in the Pizza Hut class? So the answer is no, there is no main method inside the Pizza Hut class. So now if I execute here now, what is going to happen? It is going to call basically the deliver pizza at home method, right? So let us execute this program and see what is the outcome, right? So if I execute here now, and if I click on run customer main, so it is going to execute. First of all, it's going to start the execution in the main method. And you can see here, it prints the method, which says deliver pizza at home. So in this case, always remember, if there are two classes, class A and class B, if class A wants to call method of class B, then it is the responsibility of class A to create object of class B and using that object call method of class B. Vice versa is also true. If class B wants to call method of class A, then the responsibility lies with class B to create object of class A. And then using object of class A, it can call any of the methods, right? So you can see here, I'm saying that I'm able to call this deliver pizza at home, right? So in this case, you can call using this object, you can call all the public methods of a class. So what does it mean, public methods? I will be explaining this: public, private, protected. These are access specifier. These are again topic of, I would say, future videos. But public means which is accessible to the whole world, right? So in this case, deliver pizza at home, you can see here that this method is public in nature. That means this method is accessible to the outside world. Outside world means any other class in this world. If it creates object of this Pizza Hut class, it will be able to call this deliver pizza at home. But then what does it mean if I have a private method? If I have a private method, that means it is not visible to the outside world. It is visible only to that particular class. Why will I have a private method? So maybe a real life use case could be, maybe you would like to know the total sale that happened in a Pizza Hut. So why would you like to share your, I would say, sale details with the outside world? So in that case, you'll say, let's have a private method. And let us say, I'm just trying to write some method here, private, and let's call it int get total sale, right? Get total sale. And assume that I have a variable here of the class which returns an integer type, private int total sale, right? Assume that this is total sale, right? So in this case, I'm going to say return total sale. So if I execute this program, right now, you can see here this, if I have written this, this method private int total sale. So who will be able to see this method? So answer to that is, because it is private in nature, it will not be visible outside this Pizza Hut class. If a customer wants to know what is the total sale of Pizza Hut, can he actually get to know? The answer is, if you try to say pizza dot, do you see here get total sales in the method? The answer is no. You can see here deliver pizza at home, get shop name, prepare burger, get shop address, prepare pizza, but you do not see this private method, which is get total sale, right? Which is, why do we have private method? When I don't want to basically want the outside world to know this method. So if something which is private, something which I want to keep the visibility restricted only to the class. In real life, assume that you have a, I would say, a bedroom, right? So bedroom is something like which is private. You don't want anyone should be able to enter your bedroom. So it will have restricted visibility. It is only for use for your purpose. You will not want any outsider to enter your bedroom. But let's say you have a drawing room, so where guests can come and sit, that is basically accessible, right? So that is, you might want to keep it as a public access specifier. Again, public, private, etc. that will be explained in future videos, but I just thought of giving you a perspective so that you can relate to it with a real life example. So you can see here, if I change this let's say private to public, if I just change this this access specifier of get total sale from private to public, then I will be able to access this from the outside class. Now I'll just try to demonstrate here. If I say pz dot, and now you can see here get total sale, it is visible. So that means if you change the access specifier from private to public, it will be accessible to the outside world. I hope this point is clear to all of you, right? So in this case, always remember that whenever you're trying to call methods, right? So always think that maybe you can think of, let's say, a book and an author, right? So book, or let's say, sorry, not, let's say book and a shop, right? That's not a real example. Let's say book and a student, right? So is there any relationship between book and student? The answer is no. But can we think of any other relationship from the business point of view? The answer is, we can say student reads the book, right? So student would like to know who is the publisher of the book. So student would, if student is acting as a consumer and book is acting as a service provider. So student wants to know who is the publisher or who is the author, what is the price of the book. In that case, student is acting as the consumer, book is exposing its functionality. I'm using the word exposing, or it is providing the service, or it is giving, it has certain behavior or certain methods. So if you want to call, in this case, student wants to know who is the author of the book. So student will create object of a book class, and then it will call the method of the book class. So in this case, you have seen this one point that customer is actually acting as the starting point. The main method is written here inside the customer class, right? But does it mean that main method always has to be in the customer class? The answer is no. Sometimes you might have a real life use case where you will say that maybe Pizza Hut is saying that is dispatching its delivery boy that go and deliver this address to the customer. So Pizza Hut might have the requirement to know the customer address. So in this case, Pizza Hut is now acting as the consumer and customer is acting as the service provider. So Pizza Hut wants to know the address of the customer. In that case, again, the consumer, that means Pizza Hut is now acting as the consumer. So in this case, if Pizza Hut class, and this is my customer class. If Pizza Hut wants to know the address of the customer, that means Pizza Hut class needs to create object of the customer class. And using that object, it is going to call the method of the, I would say, customer. So what is the method? It will say get address. So you can see here now, in this case, the starting point is, again, now Pizza Hut is the starting point because it is now trying to dispatch something to the customer. So starting point means the main method has to be in the, I would say, in the Pizza Hut class. So I'm going to create one more main method here. Again, I'm going to use the IntelliJ shortcut PSVM. And now this is the starting point. So if you can see here now, customer class also has a main method and Pizza Hut class also has a main method. So main method is the starting point from where the triggering point, what is the triggering point? So who is acting as the consumer? So there you can have the main method, right? So in this case, we have the class name is, I would say, the class, I would say there are two classes. One is Pizza Hut class and another is the customer class. So both these classes can have main method. Now I will just try to write here, maybe execute this. In this case, now Pizza Hut is acting as a starting point. So I want to know some method of the customer class. So that means I need to create object of the customer class. I'll say customer CUST is equal to new customer, right? And now again, you'll say, does it have to be CUST? The answer is no. You can say OBJ, whatever you want. This is a reference name. Now I'll say cust dot get address. If I execute this now, that means what does this mean? This means that now Pizza Hut is acting as, in this case, you can see Pizza Hut is acting as the consumer and it is going to call the method of the customer class. So Pizza Hut is acting as the consumer. It will call the object. It will create the object of the customer class and then it is going to call the address method in this case of the customer. I hope this point is clear to, I would say, clear to you. And just in case if it is not clear, pause the video, listen to it. Always think of if there are two classes. So who is going to call, who is going to act as the consumer, who is going to act as the service provider, right? So consumer service provider, it is not a Java related concept. I'm just trying to think logically who is providing the service and who is consuming the service. You always have to think from that perspective, right? So I have written many examples. One example could be, you can see here, as I said, there could be a class car, right? So class car, if you notice here, so class car will have certain attributes here. So those attributes, you can see the file name is test2.java and I have written two classes, class car and class driver, right? So car will have certain attributes. You can see here model, fuel capacity, mileage, and I have written few methods here like get model, get mileage, get fuel capacity. So similarly, class driver has here, you can see class driver has some attributes, age, name, and driving experience. And I have written three methods, get age, get name, get driving experience. So now you can see here, if I try to execute this, right? So do you see any execution point? The answer is no, there is no starting point in this, right? But then car and driver, is there any relationship? The answer is no. There is no parent-child relationship. We will not say that car is a child class of driver or driver is a child class of car. There is no technically any relationship between car and driver. But from a layman's point of view, what is the how are they related? We can say that driver drives the car. So maybe we can say that a driver is acting as the consumer and car is basically providing the facility. Car is providing the method. So from a normal, I would say, from common, I would say layman's point of view, one class is providing the service, another class is providing the consuming the service. So if driver wants to, let's say, wants to know the fuel capacity of the car, so in that case, driver is going to create the object of the class car, and using that object, it can call the method get fuel capacity. Similarly, let us say if maybe let's say a real life example. Let us say I have a car and I have bought a new car, and let's say I'm trying to purchase an insurance, right? So insurance company, they would like to know what is the model of the car, and they would also like to know who is the driver, what is the driver's age, how much driving experience driver has. So in that case, maybe let's say another class, third class, let's say insurance calculator, right? So driving insurance calculator. So I might have a third class, which I call it as, let's say, class insurance calculator, right? I'm trying to purchase insurance, so I have to provide details to the insurance company, right? So insurance company would like to know that, okay, which car it is, who is the driver, what is the, I would say experience, driving experience. Accordingly, it is going to calculate the insurance premium. So in this case, is there any relationship between the insurance company, driver, and car? The answer is no. They are not related. Only thing is, you have to think that the insurance company, let's call it as the insurance company, right? Insurance, not calculator, insurance company, right? So insurance company is acting as the consumer. How do we know that it's acting as a consumer? Because insurance company wants to know, right, certain information. It wants to know what is the car model. So if it wants to know what is the car model, that means insurance company is acting as the consumer and car is acting as the service provider, or car is providing the facility that if you want to know something about me, create an object of me, and then you can call any method. So insurance company, class insurance company wants to know what is the car model. So class insurance company can create object of class car, and using that object, it can call any method of the class car. Then does it mean that from insurance company, I cannot call method of any other class? The answer is no. Let us say insurance company would also have a requirement to know the driving experience of the driver, like how many years of driving experience he has. In that case, again, insurance company is acting as the consumer and driver is acting as the service provider. Why do I say service provider? Means it has basically, you want to, it is saying that I have methods. If you want to call my methods, you can call. If you want to know about my driving experience, you can know about me. So how can I know about me? You have to create object of myself, and then you can call a method. So in this case, insurance company is trying to calculate the insurance premium. So it has to basically collect information of the class car. It also has to collect information of the driver. So in that case, it is going to create object of class car. So in this case, starting point, where is the starting point? Do I have a starting point inside this driver class? The answer is no. Do I have the starting point inside the class car? The answer is no. It depends on your requirement. In this case, my requirement is basically, the triggering point starts from the insurance company. I want to, my business requirement says that calculate the insurance premium. So in this case, the triggering point is the insurance company. So I'm going to write my starting method. PSVM is the, again, shortcut, IntelliJ specific, not Java concept, right? In this case, I'm going to create object of class car. So car C is equal to new car, right? That means I have managed to create object of class car. So can I basically, what do I do with this object? So I'll say C dot, if I want to know, get fuel capacity. That means maybe if a car is bigger in size, so insurance premium will be higher. So I want to basically know the fuel capacity. Similarly, now I want to know the information about the driver. I have managed to collect all the information about the car. Let us say C dot get mileage. That's another information that I have collected. Third thing is C dot, let us say get model. So I have collected all the information related to car. Now I want to know the information related to basically the driver. So I'll say driver D is equal to new driver. And then if I say D dot, you can see get age, right? So why I'm saying get age, because insurance companies, if you're quite older, then maybe insurance may vary. So I'm interested to know what is the age of the driver. So D dot get driving experience. So how long you have been driving. Might be if you are a very fresher or a beginner, then your insurance premium will be higher. If you're having enough experience, then your insurance premium might be lesser. So I have managed to basically collect all the information about the driver. I would also like to know basically D dot, let us say get name of the driver, although name might not, it hardly matters. But all I'm saying is the insurance company here acting as a consumer. Is there any relationship between insurance company and the driver? The answer is no. Is there any relationship between insurance company and the car? The answer is no. But then insurance company as a consumer wants to know some information about the class car. So what it will do, it will create object of the class car, and it is going to call method of the class car. I hope this point is clear to all of you, right? So now, I have not written any logic. It's just, I just wanted to highlight basically the relationship. It's not always that the classes have to have a parent-child relationship, right? So two unrelated classes, they can talk to each other. First of all, if we just have a one class, what's the fun in having one class, right? Let's say if I have opened my pizza shop, right? So if I open my pizza shop, if I'm not interacting with the outside world, that means I'm not doing any business. What's the use of opening my pizza shop? So pizza shop must interact with the customer. If you just create a class and no one is interacting with your class, then there's no point of having such class. That means in real world, we must have we have multiple classes, and all the classes, they interact with each other. So if class A has to interact with class B, so class A needs to create object of class B. Similarly, class B, if it has to interact with class A, it has to create object of class A. So this vice versa, this condition always think from consumer versus supplier. So who is consuming, who is supplying? A consumer, a service provider. Again, service provider, a consumer, supplier. These are not technical concepts of Java. Always remember, I'm just trying to explain from the layman's point of view so that you understand this. Now let us try to execute this program and see what happens. If I try to execute this, right? So let us see what it prints. So you can see here, there is it has printed nothing. So I executed this program. So you will say, I'm calling this fuel capacity, I'm calling this get mileage, get model, and it has not printed anything. So does it mean that it is not calling the method, nothing is happening? The answer is no. It is definitely calling the method, but I'm not able to visually see what is happening in the code. So how do I go and see this? I'm going to simply say control, and I'm going to click on this get capacity, right? So if I say get capacity, what it does, it simply, you can see here, it simply returns something. When I call this method, let me just highlight this and show you. Okay. So let us see here the program. Let me just collapse this class. You can collapse this class. I just want to highlight here. So let us say if you're calling this get fuel capacity. Assume that if I'm calling this get fuel capacity, what does this mean? I have created object of class car, and then I'm calling this get fuel capacity. It comes here, and then it starts executing whatever is written inside this get capacity method. But then you saw that there's no output on the screen. So does it mean that this method has not been called? The answer is no. The method definitely got called, but then we are not doing anything with the value which is being returned, right? So how do I do this? So that means, let us say if I execute this method. So I have already explained that in this case, let me just explain this. When I say get fuel capacity, it goes here and it calls the fuel capacity. So fuel capacity is a instance variable, right? If you go here at the top, instance variable. So fuel capacity, all the instance variable in Java, if you are not explicitly initializing, they will get the default values. What is default value? Means you have not assigned any value to them, they will be assigned with the default values. In this case, you can say this is an instance variable, a reference type string. It will get the default value as null. Fuel capacity, it's an integer type. The default value will be 0. Mileage is an integer type. The default value will be 0. So in this case, if I try to, first of all, you'll say that nothing is happening. So I would like to explicitly showcase that something is happening. So I just want to basically print the value. So I'll say, again, a shortcut IntelliJ specific. If I say sout, that means system.println. And then if I write like this, now if I execute this program, now what I have done, I have basically written here system.out.println c.getFuelCapacity. What does this mean? This means that system.out.println means whatever you type inside this system.out.println, it is going to basically print the value returned by this method call. So what this method call is doing, we are saying that c.getFuelCapacity. I'm saying that, can you please go and get the fuel capacity? Whatever value is returned by this method call, can you please print on the screen? So let us say I have a car which has a capacity of 45 liter. So if this method returns 45, then it should print 45 on the screen, right? Now let us try to execute this now and see what happens. If I execute this now, so you can see here it is printing 0. Right? It is not printing 45 or 35. Why it is printing 0? Because it is the default value, right? So because I have not initialized the attributes of the class car. The class car, I have not initialized it. So therefore, all the instance variable get the default value. So can we initialize this class car? The answer is yes. So maybe I can have the concept of constructor. I'll say public car. And then how many instance variables you see here? There are 3 instance variable. Model, fuel capacity, and mileage. So what is the type of model? The type of model is string type. I'll say string, and I'll say, let's say model is M, and let's say int, and I'll say capacity, and then I'll say int mileage, right? Int mileage, right? So this is basically, and then I have already explained the concept of constructor in the previous classes. I'm going to say this dot model is equal to M. And then I'm going to write this dot fuel capacity is equal to cap. And then I'll say this dot mileage is equal to mileage, right? So, sorry, this dot mileage, this dot mileage is equal to mileage. So what does this mean? This means that, again, I have explained the concept of constructor many times, right? So the moment I wrote a constructor, you can see here, I have started getting this compilation error, right? So what does this compilation error says? If you see here that car C is equal to new car, I'm trying to create object of a class car, but I'm not passing any value. It tries to invoke the default no argument constructor. Whenever it creates default, it invokes default no argument constructor. All the instance variable, they get the default value. But because I have already added one constructor, right? So then it is expecting that you are trying to create an object using default no argument constructor. And at this point of time, you can see that my program does not have any no argument constructor. So if I want to fix it, there are 2 ways. Either I should add a no argument constructor in this class so that my compiler is satisfied, or I do not use this. I use some other way to create object of my class car. So I would like to fix this problem. So if I want, how do I fix it? There are various ways. You can see at the moment I put my cursor over here, it gives me an option, create constructor. I can choose this option. Let's say you choose this option. If I click on create constructor, you can see here, it has created a constructor of class car. So I think I have already explained this, this concept many times. So whenever it executes, what happens if I try to create object of this class car? Is it going to change anything? Is it going to change the output? The answer is no. Let us execute this and verify. So again, you can see here, my output has not changed. It is still printing as a 0. I have managed to create object of class car, but again, I'm using a no argument constructor. I'm not passing any value to the class car, which means that whenever this line number 48 gets executed, it calls the no argument constructor. And inside no argument constructor, I have not written anything, which means that my instance variable, it still remains initialized with the default values. But now I would like to initialize basically the attributes of a class car. So that means in that case, I have to use constructor, which takes this argument, right? I would just like to highlight one thing before I go further. I have already explained this constructor in the previous videos, and this constructor I'll keep on explaining this concept many times. So even if you don't understand the complete stuff, please do not panic. Now you can see here that if I'm saying this dot model, what does this mean? I'm saying that, can you please initialize this? This means it is referring to the model attribute of the current class, the instance variable. So you can see here, this model is actually, this model is this one. So it is referring to this attribute. So can you please initialize this instance variable with the value that I have provided in the constructor? Similarly, if I'm saying that this dot fuel capacity, that means this fuel capacity, I'm referring to the fuel capacity instance variable, whatever value that I'm passing, can you please initialize this with this value? So similarly, this dot mileage. So this mileage and this mileage both are different, right? So this mileage actually refers to this variable. There is no such rule that these names have to match or they can be different. You can put whatever you want. But imagine that whenever I say this dot mileage means I'm referring to the the attribute mileage, the instance variable of this class. And if I say just mileage, if I say here mileage, then this is referring to this one. If I write here, let's say ABC, then this also has to be ABC. So whatever value you are passing, that will be passed to this variable, and that will be assigned to the instance variable mileage. I have already explained this in the constructor. So maybe you would like to go back and watch this, the constructor video one more time. Now, I want to initialize, basically, instead of using this class car, I want to initialize my class car by passing some value, new car. So you can say new car, and as you can see here, the class takes 3 attributes: the string type, integer type, and integer type. So string means the first attribute is model, right? So I'm going to use here, let's say, ambassador. Ambassador is the, or let's say, Maruti, right? So Maruti is the model of the car, right? And then what's the fuel capacity? Next is basically capacity, fuel capacity, let's say 30 liters. And then mileage is, let's say, it gives me, let's say, 15 miles per hour. So you can see here, again, I'm saying, please pay attention. This cap and this mileage, I have not typed this. So what I typed, I would just like to explicitly mention, students do a lot of mistakes. Car C is equal to new car, right? So the first attribute is string type. So I have typed here Maruti. The second attribute is integer type. So I have not typed this, the word cap. So you have to type here some integer value, let's say 30. Similarly, I have not typed this word mileage. Mileage is basically the name of the attribute. It is the shadow. Please do not type it. So then the next attribute is also integer type. Let's say I have typed here 15. So you have to type something which is in the double quote, which is of the string type, then integer, and then integer. Now, after this, I have to put a semicolon. I'm going to put a semicolon here. Now, if you see here, if I execute this now, what does this line means? This line means that I'm trying to create object of class car, but then I want to initialize the attributes of the class with the values which are provided. I would say, can you please create a car object whose model is Maruti, whose fuel capacity is 30 liters, whose mileage is, let's say, 15 miles per hour. I mean, 15 miles per liter, whatever it is. Mileage is basically the distance traveled by the car in 1 liter of fuel, right? So this is what is the purpose of constructor? Constructor is used to initialize the attributes of a class. In this case, I want to initialize based the instance variables. In this case, I have created one car object, and then I have basically provided these values. So now if I let us see what happens if I execute this program. If I execute this program at line number 49, whenever this line gets executed, it is going to call the constructor, right? I will just again explain this. It is going to call this constructor. So I'm going to basically run this program step by step so that you understand what is happening, how the program is behaving, and why you're getting a certain output. So when I say executing the program step by step is actually, this means this is technically we are trying to debug the program. So debug. So again, I have explained this concept of debugging many times, but I'm just trying to highlight what exactly debugging means in layman's term, right? Assume that you have prepared a dish, right? And the dish is somehow you added some 20 spices, and the dish is not as per the taste what you are expecting. So how do you figure out that which particular spice is responsible for the, I would say, the different taste that you're getting? So answer is basically you'll start preparing the dish step by step. So step 1, you're going to add spice number 1, and then you're going to taste it. You'll say, yes, it's okay, perfectly fine. Next step, again, you'll add spice 2. The taste is perfectly fine. Step 3, taste is perfectly fine. Spice 4, taste is perfectly fine. Spice 5, okay, the taste has gone slightly different. That means you know that spice 5 is actually responsible for, I would say, altering the taste of the dish, whatever you have prepared. So you'll know that, okay, now I need to make sure vary the quantity of the spice 5 which I'm adding it. So how did you figure out that spice 5 is actually the faulty spice? So the answer is, when you prepared the whole dish, it was difficult for you to figure out. But then when you started preparing the dish step by step, so you were observing basically the outcome after every spice you added. So similarly, in real world, when I am trying to find out there is a defect in the program, but I'm not able to figure out why my program is behaving this way. So I would like to execute my program step by step, and I would like to observe the outcome of every line, that how my program is behaving. And then I will be able to figure out that, okay, after step number 1, this line executes, this line executes. So that's how basically I will be able to figure out how the flow of the program. And debugging is, I would say, I'm just introducing at an early stage. I will be explaining this, the concept of debugging and the process of debugging minimum 50 more times during the training. So if you don't get it absolutely, please do not panic, right? So let's understand this, the concept of debugging here. So I will just explain this. All of you can see here, when I click on this green arrow, I would just like to highlight here, when you click on green arrow, you can see run insurance company.main and debug insurance company.main. So debug. So again, it's an English word. If I say debug, right? Let's split it. That means you're trying to remove the bug from your program. Bug means it's an insect, but in software world, this bug does not mean insect. Bug means there is a logical defect in your program. Something is wrong. Your program is not behaving the way it is supposed to behave. So debug means trying to remove the bug from your application, right? So now, another important point is when can you debug the program in IntelliJ? So if it has a compilation error, for example, if I don't put a semicolon here, so now can I debug this? The answer is I cannot debug it if my program has a compilation error. So your program must compile first. So it can only fix the logical defects. But now let's park this, I would say, the more detailed concept. I'm just introducing you to the concept of debugging. So debugging is a very, very important skill set. All the developers, testers, they must know debugging. Why it is important? Because whenever you go into IT world, right, sometimes there will be no one to train you or guide you what that code is doing. So you will be, you have to understand the flow of the program, the behavior of the program on your own. So that point of time, debugging is going to be a big rescue. If you know how the program behaves step by step, so you can step by step execute and understand the flow of the program. So let us try to do this the same here. I'm going to put a breakpoint. What is a breakpoint? Breakpoint means I'm saying that, can you please start executing the program and halt the program at this particular line. So I'm going to basically put you have to just put your cursor here at line number 49. And if you can see here, it comes here as when you click once, red, I would say circle appears. If I click one more time, it disappears. That means if I put if this red circle appears, that means I'm saying that, can you please, when you start executing this program, I would like you to stop at this program. So similarly, let us put some more SOPs here. I'm going to say here system.out.println. Sorry. I'll say sout. And then I'm just putting this inside this circle. And then, so I have put one line number 49, and let's put line number at line number 52, right? And let us do it here as well. I'm just exploring this here, sout. Right. Okay, cool. So I have written 3 SOPs here. So I'm just explaining you the concept of debugging here. So now let's understand this. So if I want to execute this program and I want to see that maybe why, maybe something, or maybe I want to understand how the program is, how the program executes step by step. So if I, what is the starting point? Starting point is always the main method. So if I do a right click here, and if I put a right click debug, so if I have written some other SOP here as well, let's say system.out.println, I am calculating insurance, right? By the way, I have not written any business logic how to calculate insurance, right? So that business logic might be quite, let's say you might have some other formulas to apply. I just wanted to highlight that how these multiple classes, they interact with each other with the real life example, so that you can understand that insurance company can call methods of driver class, it can call methods of class car class, and none of these classes are related with each other. So if I put a breakpoint at line number 50, if I execute this, so the program will straight away execute, and it's going to stop at line number 50, and it is going to print, I am calculating insurance. Let's do a right click here. And if I click on debug insurance company.main. So when I do a right click, you'll see that something is happening, and you'll get this kind of view on your IntelliJ. Right. So there are various, I would say, settings on this screen, right? You don't have to worry too much, and don't try to understand everything in one program. But again, this is just to satisfy. Sometimes a student asks that why my program is not giving output. So in that case, if you put a breakpoint and execute the program step by step, you can understand the flow and you will be able to figure out that why your program is behaving in a certain manner. So let us understand this. So you can see here system.out.println, I am calculating insurance. So this line has already executed. That means if it has already executed, so it must have appeared on the screen. So let us go and try to see here. So all of you can see that there is something called console. That means console is where you can see the output. If I click on console, so you can see here it says I am calculating insurance, right? It says I am calculating insurance. This line has already executed. But now, has it executed these lines? The answer is no. Why it has not executed? Because I am trying to prepare my dish. I have added my spice number 1. Now I would like to see the outcome. So debug means going step by step, step by step. So now, if you can see here, again, I'll go and try to see. I'll click on this debugger and the console and debugger. When I click on debugger, it will show me all the variables here, which I can see at this point of time. Let's understand this. Now, where does the program go after this, right? So where does the program go after this? So there are various, I would say, you can see here, this. Okay, it looks like my Epic Pen is not working. Okay, so now, why are we doing debugging? Because I want to know where my program has gone wrong. Or let us say, even if my program is working absolutely fine, does it make sense to debug it? The answer is yes. It's not always to find out basically the fault in the program, but it can also help you to understand which line gets executed after which a particular line. So in this case, you can see that it started executing from the main method. It printed this message on the console. And now after line number 50, which line gets executed. So I would like to see here. So you can see there are various, I would say, this arrow icon, this is like this, and this is like this. And maybe there are various icons, right? So as this means, can you please go into that? And this is basically go to the next line. Let's try to put a cursor and try to understand this. So step into and step, sorry, I told you wrong. Step over means, can you please step over and move to the next line? If I say this one, step into means, can you please go into that? So step into, if I click this line, right, step into F7. F7 is the shortcut. You might be having various keys on your function keys on your keyboard. At the top in the first line is F1, F2, F3. So if you press F7, it can go into this. So when I say into this means, what does it mean into? So it means that logically you can think here, I am trying to invoke or create object using a constructor that takes 3 arguments. So did I create any constructor that takes 3 arguments? The answer is yes, I did create. So you can see here that this public car, this is the constructor. So I would like my program to stop at this particular line. Let's say if I put a breakpoint at line number 8. And let us see here, if I put this line, if I click on step into, what does it have? What happens here? If I click on step into, so you can see here straight away, it goes into the definition of that constructor. When I say step into means, can you please go into that? And then if I click on the step into means, it will go to the next line. So you can see here, all of you, please pay attention, right? So this is super important, right? So you can see here model is equal to null. So which model it is referring to? The answer is it is referring to this instance variable. So I told you that in Java, all the instance variable by default, they get initialized with the reference variable will get initialized with the default value. So if it's a string type, it'll get the default value as null. So this line, has this line executed? The answer is no. The cursor is the cursor is still on line number 7. It has not executed. So at this point of time, what is the value of model? The answer is it is null. Once this line gets executed, at that point of time, this model will be initialized with the value whatever we have passed. So what value we have passed? All you can see here that M is this variable. You can see M is this variable. This is the value which I have passed from my constructor. So I have passed the value as Maruti. So whatever value was passed, I wrote my code like this: car C is equal to new car and Maruti. and 30, 15. I wrote my code like this. So this value, whatever I passed, it comes here. So this M is a local variable which is carrying the value as Maruti. So whatever value this M is having Maruti, can you please assign this to the instance variable model? So this will be initialized with the value Maruti. So after this line, at line number 8, if I see the value of model, this will not be null. It will be initialized with the value as Maruti. How do I know this? If I want to see, if I again, I'll click on this line, step into F7, and now you can see that. All of you can see here. Now, what is the value of model? So the answer is model has been initialized with the value Maruti. Whereas when the cursor was on line number 7, it was showing the value as null. Now, if you see here, what's the value of capacity? So you can see here, the fuel capacity is 0. What is the fuel capacity? It's the instance variable. Instance variable, by default, it gets the default value as 0. And then the value of cap. What is cap? Cap is the local variable, whatever value I passed. Again, I'll write here car C is equal to new car. And the model is Maruti in double quotes. Then 30 is basically the fuel capacity and 15 is the mileage. So this 30 is basically the value of the cap. So at this point of time, you can see the fuel capacity is 0. Once this line gets executed, then only whatever is the value of cap, it will be assigned to the fuel capacity. So you please notice here, it is fuel capacity is 0. Now I want to go to the next line. If I click on this one next, now you can see here, the fuel capacity has been initialized to basically 30. Similarly, if this line gets executed, the mileage will be, you can see mileage is here at this point of time, it is 0. The default value is 0. Once the control goes past this line, then only this mileage will be initialized with the value as 15, right? All of you can see that this mileage here is 15, right? This is mileage here is, you can see it is 15. So after this line, this mileage will be executed with the value as 15. Let's execute this now. So after this, control will go out of the constructor. It'll line number 10, and then control comes here. So all of you, let us say, if you're curious to know what happened, which line got executed. So what you're supposed to do, you're supposed to click on this arrow. It'll take you step by step, and so that you can understand what is the outcome. So after this line number 50 gets executed, what is the outcome? Essentially, what does this mean? This means that you have managed to create an object car whose reference variable is C. Object gets created on heap, and it has 3 attributes. One attribute is model, and one is fuel capacity, and one is mileage. So you have initialized the value model with the value Maruti, and fuel capacity is 30 and mileage is 15. So after this line 50 gets executed, the object got initialized with these values. Now I want to see what happens in the next. So I'm going to click here. Again, I'll click on this, step into F7. So now you can see here, if I say C dot get fuel capacity, if I want to see C dot get fuel capacity, I can basically find out what is the value of the fuel capacity. If I click on this next line, so let us understand the outcome of this program. What does this mean? It says that system.out.println C dot get fuel capacity. All I'm saying is I created an object of class car whose reference variable is C. It created an object on heap with the 3 attributes: model as Maruti, and fuel capacity as, let's say, 30 liters, and mileage as 15. So I'm saying that system.out.println C.get fuel capacity. I'm saying, can you please print the value of the fuel capacity? So what's the value of fuel capacity? It is 30. But am I simply accessing the fuel capacity directly? I'm saying no. Go and call this method get fuel capacity. So if I want to go into that method and see what it does print, so I have to click on this, step into F7. When I click on this, I have to click one more time. And sorry, it has gone into the Java library, right? So this is something like which I have not written. This is the library of the Java, right? So you don't want to basically, sometimes whenever we write Java program, the program goes this, I would say, class car or driver, or sorry, or a test insurance company, it is written by you. Who has written this print stream class? The answer is you have not written it. It comes with the Java library, right? So if the control comes here, what will you do? So the only way to fix here is you'll go to test2 class and you'll go to the definition of get fuel capacity. And then you're going to put a breakpoint here. So always remember, right? So again, I will explain, highlight here. Did you write the code for the string class? The answer is no. String is actually a class in Java, right? It comes with the library of the, whenever you install Java. So there are certain classes, predefined classes, which comes with the Java library. What does the Java library means? For example, if you're trying to write a, I would say English, let's say English paragraph. So how do you write English paragraph? The answer is you have been given a set of predefined English words that comes from the English language. So can we say that English language is a library? The answer is yes. Using the predefined words of English, you write your English paragraph. So are we developing Java program? The answer is yes. But how are we developing Java program? By using predefined classes which comes with Java. So string is one such class which comes with Java, right? You don't have to break your head understanding what does this print stream class means at this point of time. So again, because I was going step by step, so internally it was calling another class. Now I want to say that, can you please go and straight away go to the next available breakpoint? So again, you can see here, this is the green arrow. So if you click on this, let us say, again, I'm trying to highlight, if the program was suspended on line number 48. So you had put a breakpoint line number 48, and this is line number 72. So you want to say that I don't want to basically go step by step, go to line number 49, then 50, then 51. You say, I want to straight away jump to the next breakpoint. It's something like whenever you're going on a holiday, you'll say, we are going to make a stop at, let us say, after 10 miles or after 15 miles. It's something like this. So the program is suspended line number 48. Now I would like to go and suspend at the next available breakpoint. So how do you go about that? So for that, you have to click on this arrow, which is green arrow. You can see here on the left-hand scene. And when you click on this, whatever is the next available breakpoint, it is going to simply go and stop at that point. So this is also very important. You can see here right now, the control is suspended on your Java class, right? So you can see here the control is suspended on line number 811, and it is basically inside the print stream class. You do not have to break your head, right? I don't want to basically go and go into the library of Java and understand each and everything. I would simply go and say that, can you please go and stop at the next available breakpoint. So I'm going to click on this green arrow. And when I click here, again, as you can see here, straight away, it comes to the line number 53, right? So line number 53 is here. It comes here, line 53 is the next available breakpoint. And that's how basically you can keep executing step by step. And you can execute. Let's say if I want to disable all the breakpoints, I say, sorry, I'm done. I have found a mistake and I'm no more interested in executing the program step by step. Can you please disable all the breakpoints? So you can disable those breakpoints as well. So you can see here this arrow. So if you click on this, let me just click on this and highlight it. So when I click on this, you can see right now it is enabled. And if I click on this, it is disabled, right? So how do I know it is disabled? So the only way to figure out, the moment I click here, you can see here they are appearing in white. White means my breakpoints are disabled. If I click again here, now you can see here, it is appearing as red. Red means breakpoint is enabled. If I disable, let's say, just to highlight it, that d.getName, right? If I let us try to print here, s out here. Or let us put here s out here as well. Right. So again, when I execute this program, if it is running in step-by-step mode, right? So then it should go step by step. But if I've disabled it and if I click on run, if I click on this run means, what does this mean? This means that go and execute and stop at the next available breakpoint. But is my breakpoint enabled? The answer is no. So when I click on this resume, it will go and straight away execute, I would say, all the code as it is. Let us execute this now. So you can see here, my program has executed, and let us try to understand the outcome as well. So when I say, okay, so in this case, it has not printed anything else. Why? Because the program was running and I made the changes, I would say, in between when the program was running. So I will just execute it one more time so that you understand the outcome, right? Now I don't want to run the debug mode. I'm going to simply click on this run insurance company.main, right? So when I run it, you can see here there are certain outcome, right? So I am calculating insurance. Yes, I am calculating insurance. And then it says that C dot get fuel capacity. So the initially the fuel capacity, the default value was 0, but after this object was created, the fuel capacity was initialized with the value 30. So therefore it prints here as 30. So fuel capacity here is as 30. Get mileage, mileage is 15. Get model, model is, this is Maruti, right? But after this, when I created the object of driver, I said D dot get age. It simply calls it get age. And what does get age returns? Get age, when I call this get age method, let's go and try to see the definition of get age method. And if you click here, get age, it comes here and it returns the age of the driver. It simply returns. But what do I do with the return value? Am I using that return value? The answer is no. So if it basically comes and calls the get age method, it returns. But returns does not mean that you have to print. If at all you want to print the value, then you have to use system.out.println. Means whatever value was returned by the method call, can you please print on the screen? So am I using system.out.println here? D.get age, the answer is no. If I'm not using a system.out.println, it will call the method, but it is going to return it, but we are not doing anything with the return value. If I want to say that, can you please print the value? Then I have to write here, basically system.out.println and D.get age. So now your next question will be, what value it is going to print? So answer to that is D.get age. So whenever I'm trying to create object of the driver class, am I initializing the attributes of the driver object? The answer is no. Why? Because I'm using a default no argument constructor, right? So that means all the attributes of the driver object will get the default value. So in this case, age will get the value here as 0. Driving experience will also get the value as 0. And D.get name, it's a reference type. It's going to print as null. So you can see here, it prints here as 0 and null. So D.get experience, it prints here as a 0. And D.get name, it prints here as null. Right. So I think I just wanted to introduce few of the concepts in this video. Number one, whenever can we have only one class in a file? The answer is no. We can have as many number of classes as in a file. Why do we have multiple classes? The answer is the practical purpose why we create multiple classes, because we have multiple entities or multiple classes in a life, and objects, they do have to interact. Student will interact with professor, right? So similarly, customer will interact with, let's say, shop, or maybe there will be service provider. So let's say tree and a human being. So tree has a certain functionality. Human being, tree emits oxygen. So human being consumes oxygen. So sometimes I would say almost always classes, they do have the requirement to interact with each other. So if there are two classes, they have to interact with each other. So if class A wants to call some method of class B, then class A will create object of class B and is going to call method of class B. Similarly, if class B wants to call some method of class A, then class B is going to create object of class A and it's going to call the method of class A. So this example I just want to highlight there. We took a class example of driver class and class car, and then we had the third class called insurance company. And I explained you step by step how the program executes, right? So this concept is called debugging. This will be explained minimum 50 more times during the training. So please do not panic if you haven't understood everything. And this was just a high-level attempt to introduce early to the concept of debugging. It is going to be a super important skill set as a developer or as an automation tester whenever you have the requirement to type the code, right? One last thing which I mentioned at the beginning, right? And I think all of you, most of you do mistakes. And again, I have highlighted this many, many times, right? Make sure that the classes, whatever class you write. So if you want to know the boundary of this class, you can see this minus icon, right? I'll just highlight here. You can see this minus icon. So when you click on this, the class car is going to collapse. Similarly, class driver and this class insurance company. So what does this mean? This means that this file has 3 classes, but all of them are having their own curly brace. So this is, let's say, a boundary of class car. So class car has a starting point and an ending point. Similarly, class driver, it has a starting point and an ending point. Similarly, third class is insurance company. It has a starting point and ending point. None of the class is declared inside this class car. So I have seen all the beginners, they miss this curly braces and they declare the class inside the class, one class inside the other class. So please do not do this mistake. And now again, I'm going to expand this, right? So I also explained the concept that, is it necessary that there will be only one method in a class? The answer is no, right? You can have main methods in one class, two classes, or in all the classes. But then main method is just the triggering point from where the flow starts. If as a customer, you want to order the pizza, so that means you want to avail the services of pizza shop or Pizza Hut. So you have to create object of Pizza Hut, and then you're going to call the method. A Pizza Hut has to dispatch the order, right? So then it has to know the customer address. So Pizza Hut is going to create object of the customer class. Student has to go to library, borrow a book from the library. So library is going to tell that, okay, these are the books available, right? And student has basically his attribute. So if student wants to know what all books are available, so student needs to create object of the library, and student is going to call the methods of the library class. Similarly, if library has to know basically which student has borrowed this, or I want to know the address of the student, the library class has to create object of the student class. So main method will depend where do you need to create a main method. It completely depends on the use case. Is it absolutely necessary to have the main method? The answer is no, right? So in this case, you can see here that my class car, it does not have a main method, right? So does it mean that this class car is absolutely useless? The answer is no. Then who is going to create where the main method will be? Again, it depends who is actually going to consume this functionality of the class car. Who wants to call the method of this class car? So whosoever wants to create method of the class car, he will take the responsibility of creating object of that class car, and that class is going to have the main method. So it is not necessary that class will always have a main method. For example, I as a, let's say, publisher, I have published certain books. So does it mean that publisher class will have the main method? The answer is no. Let us say if someone wants to call my method of my class, then the caller is going to take the responsibility of creating object of my class. So then in that case, main method is going to be present in that particular class. So few important points. Is it absolutely necessary to have the main method in the class? The answer is no. But why we have been creating main method? Because I wanted to demonstrate that how the program starts executing. Main method is always the starting point. Again, I'll quickly summarize. You might have, let's say, class A, class B, and class C. So where the main method is, does it mean that I should have a main method in class A or class B or class C or in all of them? The answer is it could be present in all three of them, maybe only two or none of them. So basically, these are classes, these are facilities. Assume that I'm selling mobile, right? Mine is a mobile shop. Someone is selling TV. Someone is selling, let's say, a refrigerator. So these three classes are there: mobile, refrigerator, and TV. So does it mean that all of them will have the main method? The answer is no. So who is going where the main method will be? Let's say there might be a class called, let us say, consumer, right? So consumer wants to know, let us say, what is the functionality of a TV. So this consumer class is going to create object. Let's say this is my TV class. So consumer wants to know the functionality of TV. So consumer is going to have the main method. In that main method, it is going to create object of the class TV, and then it's going to call the method of the TV class. Similarly, let's say consumer wants to, let's say, know the functionality of a laptop. So consumer class is going to, let's say, this is the laptop class. So consumer is going to create object of the laptop class in the main method. Inside the consumer, and it's going to call the method of the laptop class. So I hope this clears, I would say, so many confusions. I would say some miscellaneous, I would say, concepts which I wanted to highlight. And if something is not clear, please do not panic. All these concepts will be explained many, many times. And at this point of time, I do not expect that you should be able to write your own program. All I expect is just watch the video, right? And write down the program as it is the way I have explained, and try to focus on the concepts. Do not try to write your own program, because you'll do a lot of mistakes at this point of time. Just focus on understanding the concept. And once you get hold of it, at a later stage, I will let you know when is my expectation, when do I expect that you should be able to write your own program. But this video is kind of a summary of whatever we have covered till now. after this video, there is a new concept which will be explained in subsequent videos, which is interface and abstract class, right? So that is something which is a topic for, I would say, the next class. And the constructor, I keep on reiterating. Constructor is a concept of, I would say, subsequent chapter, but because we are dealing with object, I had to introduce this concept at an early stage. And it will be explained many, many times in the future videos. And few advice, I would say, golden advice, which I keep reiterating. Please do not try to cram, do not try to remember anything. Just focus on understanding the concept, watch the video, right? I would say type the program, understand whatever I have explained in the video. Do not attempt to write your own program at this stage of time, right? Just go step by step, right? Maybe we are taking baby steps. Type the program, take your notes. And once you have taken notes, execute the program. Typing the program is super important. Some students, they do the mistake of simply watching the video and they think that, yes, I have understood the concept. There is no need to type the program. Please do not skip typing the code. You have to type every single line of code, whatever I have explained in the video, right? So I think that's all I wanted to cover for this discussion. Thank you.